I'm gonna start recording. Just take us away whenever you're ready.
Oh, I guess. Okay, so hello and welcome to Glitchpoint. So yeah, if there's been a bunch of previous talking, that's just COVID style podcasts. Don't even worry about it. These are the days. But yeah, so this is another show where we did find some stuff to talk about, but we will obviously venture wherever the hell we want to because that's the show that we like. But there was what was this from? This was from the Nintendo Indie World Showcase. So I wanted to start here because I actually thought it's just amazing that Nintendo is, and of course, you know, they've been a platform that supports indie games and also just what they feel like is a porting platform to me, which is something that I think that other platforms are missing out, like Xbox and PlayStation 4, where anybody who has a game wants to get it quickly onto the Switch, you know. And it's like, and I think that's such a cool thing that, and you know who, which is interesting, is the Vita used to be this way from PlayStation, and it used to be a platform that was more of a porting platform where it's like anything, because most of these games that are on this list were, other than Hades, I think is the only one that is going to be no. Oh no, there was a PC version of that as well. Okay. So most of these, I think all of these games on this list are from PC games that already exist, you know? So it's literally all ports.
Yeah.
Which I think is so cool, you know? It's I feel like other consoles are missing out on this. So, because, you know, if you love those games and, you know, you might want to play them on different platforms, and maybe we'll see this when there's more cloud-based stuff. You know, maybe they'll want to pull more people into their cloud community. But I think Nintendo does such a good job of this, of just taking the game. Like, there are so many times where I'm on Steam and I'm about to buy a game, and I'm like, oh, I'll just wait till it comes out on the Switch.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, it's pretty crazy that Nintendo became this like indie haven, and I think it was very much needed because the Switch was so underpowered in comparison. And I mean, like, the interesting thing is how many indie, like, I expect the indie games to come to the Switch just like it's coming to other platforms, but it seems like there's been an influx of games that only have been going to the Switch, or the other console versions come significantly later, which I think is gonna, I don't know the details of shipping a game on the Switch, but I'm assuming that the specifications might be significantly easier on Nintendo, which is very odd because that's never been how history works. Usually it's hard as hell to get your game on a Nintendo console, but yeah, it's really nice. I mean, because it's like portable, it's like the best spot for indie games, hands down.
Well, I think the other thing that's pretty remarkable is they've kind of dropped their Nintendo image, you know, like this friendly, nice games, you know, that are these Nintendo. They're like very PG-13 type games, and I like that they dropped that for the Switch, and they're just letting anything that wants to come onto the Switch come onto the Switch. I mean, it's like they don't even care, you know. And I think we saw this with the first Doom, when the first Doom came on the Switch, and I mean other Bethesda games as well, but specifically that game, because it was like, wow, you know. And I think Binding of Isaac was another one where I was like, wow, this is so not Nintendo's image, you know. It's like,
yeah,
so cool.
I'm glad you bring up Binding of Isaac, because I mean, like, Nintendo, I mean, we had Doom 64, which a lot of people regard as one of the best Dooms.
Yeah,
that's true. Like, and then like Nintendo definitely went down this hole of avoiding those types of games on the, like, with the Wii and the Wii U. But the thing with Binding of Isaac is it does have a lot of like religious tie-ins. I mean, it's not a religious game by any means, but like usually Nintendo strays away from that specifically. So that was a pretty big, and that was like a launch title. I want to remember, I had it really early on.
Yeah. Well, it like opened the floodgates for a lot of other games, like that game I was telling you about, where people, I think I forget the name of it again, but it's the one where you kill people at a party. But I mean, like, there was just a lot of like really dark games that came out after Binding of Isaac came out. I would have to check the timeline. I might be wrong on all these because, you know, I don't know everything. But it's nice because I remember especially after the Wii and then the Wii U and like the Yarn games that started to come out, and I felt like Nintendo was going towards like babyware.
Oh yeah, they definitely were.
And I was like, oh shit. And then they just went 180 degrees and went the other direction, which I love.
Thank God they did.
Yeah, because I was really worried at that. I remember I'm like, these games are really bad, and they're not even, they're just super simple. Like these are for like 10-year-olds or 5-year-olds, 5-year-olds.
Yeah, no, I think it was just the Wii U was the exact reason why. Because I mean, with the Wii, it exploded. Everyone, the grandmas and uncle, everyone was playing the Wii. So they were like, well, now if we're gonna make big games, they need to be for literally everyone. And then once the Wii U came out, they realized, oh, so no one's ever gonna buy something else again. Everyone's just okay with the Wii. We need to go back to the people who actually buy our consoles, which are the core gamers.
Yeah.
And it's working extremely well for the Switch.
Well, I know a lot of people that didn't even touch the Wii U. I was one of them. It took me forever to buy a Wii U because I was just like, I don't want this. This doesn't feel good. It felt very much like the misstep that Sega took. It was too soon. The console came out. It didn't really. Most of the games were on both the Wii and the Wii U, so it was like, what is the point?
Yep, and the naming was bad for people who didn't know what was going on. It seemed like, I mean, it was kind of like with the 32X, like you call it this, but you have to, it feels like it's I mean, the 32X was an expansion to the Sega Genesis, so the Wii U kind of felt like an expansion to the Wii rather than like this is a brand new platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Sega. I mean, it's funny that Nintendo went down the road that Sega did, but unlike Sega, they came back. They didn't fuck themselves completely.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they were riding on that wave of money they made from the Wii. So
yeah, that helped a lot.
Yeah, that gave them a good. I mean, because Sega was always a little bit behind. So I mean, they were always on the edge of bankruptcy.
Yeah, they never were really. I mean, they had like I think 1 year where they had like 51, maybe 52% market share, but that's not enough to just dive bomb into your sales.
Yeah, that was Sonic year.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I'm really happy with the Switch, and it's funny because I don't feel like they ever need to make another console, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because apparently yesterday there have been reports that the Switch is getting an upgrade in 2021.
That's fine. I'll take an upgrade. I just don't want a new console.
Oh, I agree with you. I think like even if I mean honestly, well, I'm kind of wondering what that necessarily means because like you can't make the Switch upgrade like you can't upgrade it significant because you have to still make games for the base model, but what I'm wondering is if they're going to upgrade the actual Switch or if they're going to have a new dock which can maybe upscale to 4K, which for me, that's good enough for me. Like, I think that if I could just upscale it to 4K and maybe give it a little bit more power to maybe, like, go to 64K, but only in dock mode, I think that's fine. Because if you're in handheld mode, I really don't think people care all that much about the fidelity. It looks fantastic, and that thing's only, like, 720p.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you can definitely upgrade the quality of the screen. And I don't think that would be a problem because older games they wouldn't be able to utilize it, but I mean it still would look nice. I think it would look it would just be pixel doubling, but or upscaling. We call that upscaling. But yeah, I mean I don't know. If they ever abandon the Switch and try to make a new form factor, they're idiots because this is like it just so fits a perfect niche that exists, and there really doesn't need to be any hardware updates. Like, I mean, it's just the games are fun, and they're all these small indie games, and maybe this is the only reason I can foresee it is the portability of it. So like if games on the PC become too advanced, so the portability gets hurt. So you can no longer it's difficult to downgrade your game to fit on the Switch. Maybe they'll think of a Switch 2 or Switch whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that they can really invent. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think they can invent a new form factor that's going to be as cool as this one. But I think the thing that worries me about the Switch in the long term is that it's going to always be, well, unless they invest in streaming like other companies, but like when they had the 3D or the DS, like Sony tried to combat their handheld division and no one ever really took over Nintendo on the handheld realm. But now the Switch is like, oh, you can be home dock or on the go, and now Xbox is being like, you can be at home or on the go with Project xCloud. So I'm wondering if streaming is ever going to get good enough to where people are starting to realize, well, I'd rather play a streamed version rather than the port to the Switch. Because I mean, indie games, I don't think that's going to matter. I think the Switch can handle indie games for the foreseeable future unless they start going crazy. But with games like the Doom port and some other ports that we've been seeing recently, is definitely starting to show its power deficiency and not hitting 30 consistently. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if and then this upgraded thing again, it can't be so much that the games can't run on the base model. So I really don't know what Nintendo's long term is if Project X Cloud and Sony's PlayStation Now.
I mean,
are
honestly,
viable.
I want to play both of those on the Switch. So like as a consumer, I would want to play xCloud on the Switch.
Oh boy, that would be insane.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like they have a unique device that could literally, if they could get, I mean, I don't know if that would ever happen, but or if they have the time to set up their own cloud network, but I would prefer their cloud network over anyone's because of the Switch, because of the handheld, the way I don't want to play these. That's the funny thing. Like, yes, xCloud can go on your phone, right? And it can go, and the only ones that I see that are viable are your console and your computer. I don't want to play shit on my phone. I don't know how people are playing Fortnite on their phone. I mean, obviously not anymore, but I don't know how people are playing games on their phone, like serious games.
Well,
I don't get it. I don't want to do it.
People who do the touchscreen, and it's like I don't know how, but I know that Project X Cloud they advertise this just easily like a phone clip. That's all it is. You literally just like it's an Xbox controller with a little clip that you put your phone on top of the controller, and that's how they are telling people that's the best way to play. And then in terms for if you're playing on an iPad, you can just put it on a stand and then just hook a controller up. So I don't think that Project X. I think that they're allowing people to have touch input if you really want to, for like accessibility reasons, but you can hook up anything to a phone at this point. So their dream is you hook up a controller to your phone. And at that point, it is kind of like having a Switch, but you can hook up any controller rather than the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, though, I mean, there's something about, and I don't know about the peripherals that hook to the side of the controller. Every time I look at one of those, that hooks to the side and gives you joysticks on your phone, they look terrible. I mean,
yeah, let me see if I can find an image of this clip and I'll send it to you, but
because I mean, there's just, I don't know. The Switch really feels good. I like how it feels in my hands. I don't want to, if I can get away with just carrying the Switch and not carrying anything else. And I like the carrying cases that come for it, and all, like, it's just got a whole community based around it of peripherals that I just enjoy, and I don't see that, like, I want my phone to be my phone.
Yeah, and I was about to say that. So for me, and I'm sending it to you over Skype, the clip I've been talking about. But for my thing is, yeah, my phone.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Unless
I don't want to do that. That's terrible.
Unless batteries start. I mean, we talked last week about batteries, so unless batteries go down this amazing godsend of a road, it's hard for me to say like, oh, I can just go on the go, because then my phone is dying. And like, yeah, for me, I prefer like my phone is my phone. I want that to last all day because I need my phone all day. But the nice thing with the Switch is it's separate battery, that it's its own thing, and it uses the same port as phones unless you have an iPhone.
Well, it's the Pokemon Go syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the night. Like, that's sucked about Pokemon Go. It's really fun, but then you play for 30 minutes and your phone's like, sorry, dude, I'm dead.
I mean,
and then you're like, fuck.
I'll give it to that because it was using location data, but still, and GPS. But still, it was like I would watch people. I'd be like, "Oh, you having fun for 2 hours?"
Yeah, and then the other thing that I mean is a problem with games, like with just all mobile games, is heat. Like your phone does get very hot playing these games, and they take that into account. Like when a lot of developers, when they're designing free-to-play games that they want people to keep coming back to, one reason that they put in those cooldowns is not only to just kind of get you to come back, but also to convince you, like to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not promote. God damn it. But to kind of just, convince is not the word, but just put your phone down. They want you to stop playing the game for an amount of time so your phone doesn't blow up.
Yeah,
And that's like part of the design process.
Encourage.
Thank you. Holy shit. Encourage.
Oh. Yeah, encourage.
That's okay. We just make a
Solicit.
podcast and I can't talk. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you mean. And you know what? It's I think we're getting, and maybe I always say these things, but like maybe this is just me, but maybe I'll just ask you if you feel the same way. But like lately, like I used to be all about, my phone being big and my phone being like this device that I could do everything on, and like now I just kind of want a phone. Like I don't know. There's so many other devices around. There's like, maybe it's because like I use my Surface for stuff like that. And if I really wanted a big thing to watch videos in bed, or I would use my Surface.
Yeah,
or some other device.
I 100% agree with you. And this was one reason why I stopped getting a Surface, and it's nothing against the Surface line. I love that line, but what I kind of realized was I've started to get into this mindset with tech that I don't like all-in-one things or things that try to do multiple things, because at the end of the day, it's just like it's not quite as good as an all like the Surface. It's great, but it's not quite the best tablet and it's not quite the best laptop. So I'm just kind of stuck between the two, and I've gotten to the point where I would rather just have something that's really great at doing one thing and have a couple things in my life specifically tech related. So that's why I switched over to like I got an iPad, and it's specifically a great computer or a great tablet, and then my phone is just a great phone, and then my computer is just a computer. So yeah, for me, I don't really care about this whole like, oh, my phone can do fucking everything. I would, but I'm a console guy. I'd rather just have my console, play games, and that's why I love my console. All it does is play games. I like PC, but it does a lot of things.
You've also gone over to the dark side. So we won't talk about
to the Apple dark side.
You're an Apple fanboy now.
I totally am.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's pretty great.
You're trapped in their community of proprietary everything.
Yeah, the Apple ecosystem is an evil place, but when you're in it, it's pretty fucking great. But
no, I mean, yeah, they have a lot of great hardware, and it is really nice that everything just works, and that's the thing people always say. Like, it's just very easy. But in the end of the day, it's like you're either a tinkerer or you're not. And like I think that's the argument.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I left, was I realized that, I mean, I used to be a lot more of a tinkerer when I was in like high school and college, and just like once I started to get out of I think it was just getting out of the school mindset, I just started to realize like I really don't want to tinker with some of my things. Like PC is an exception, so that's why I keep it. But when it comes to like my phone and stuff, I just want it to just be a tight-knit experience that just works and that I don't have to deal much with it, and that's one reason why I left. The other thing is I really like Apple's whole stance on privacy of user data. It's very great, and I wish more companies had their views. But that's okay, Google.
Yeah, but you can also, I mean, there are ways around that you can take on your own. I mean, like, if you're willing to do the research, you can definitely secure your data.
Oh, definitely.
But that's the whole thing, right? It's like that's the difference between a PC mindset and a Apple mindset. I hate saying PC. Windows mindset or Linux mindset.
Yeah, definitely.
Because personal computer is not a thing. Everything is a personal computer.
Yeah, Windows is definitely like its own thing, and Linux and Mac is just completely, it's all weird.
Yeah, no, I don't even know where we were, but let's see. So let's go back to this article because, I mean, there's the Hades is the only thing that I mean, I never actually played Bastion. I played a little bit of it or Transistor, but for some reason I'm excited about this. But I don't know if you watched the video on it. This type of game for indie games where it's like I feel like I don't know what you would call this, but it's definitely top down.
Isometric.
No, I mean it's kind of like Enter the Gungeon or any of those games or Binding of Isaac where you're running around. I mean that's top down, right? I mean that would just be top down dungeon crawler, I think it is.
Yeah.
So, but you could call these like a lot of these will become boss simulators. If I couldn't come up with a better word, which is Enter the Gungeon's definitely a boss simulator where it's like you're just going from one boss to the next boss and then just kind of trying them out. I feel like I'm sick of these type of games. I don't know, and you know what? They're great, and I get it. Like people love them, but I just they've flooded the indie market for like at least 5 to 10 years now.
Definitely. I mean, I think that happens with indie games a lot just because of the way they're made and how many there are. And like a lot of indie games have the same type of budget. So like when you don't have that AAA budget, you don't have this, it's hard to have the time and effort to distinguish yourself. So a lot of games that come out in the indie place, if they are in the same genre, can tend to blend. I don't think this is not an insult in any way. If anything, this is kind of a compliment. But like when I see this, I can tell right away this is a Supergiant game. Like you mentioned, like Transistor and Bat. Like they have the way they make their games, and I look at this and like instantaneously I'm like, yes, that's a Supergiant game. For me personally, that means I kind of don't care. But it looks great. And
anybody can change their way. Like I just feel like they're running the same path. Like maybe that's what they're meant to do. Is just make the same type of game. But it just feels stale by now. Oh, and I'm going with top-down shmup.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're gonna call these. Top-down shmups.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's always going to be people, and there's probably people who are huge fans of Transistor and Bastion and Supergiant in general that look at this and they're like, thank God, just more of the same, but it's not exactly the same thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But I'm someone who played Bastion and thought it was great, but it's just not my type of game, so I didn't even touch Transistor, so I'm not really too interested in Hades. But it looks like they did a great job making it, so...
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It definitely, but it's just, I don't know, like, I just feel like this is kind of actually what shmup happened to shmups, right? Shoot 'em. What do you call shmup? It's just,
Shmup.
Shmup? Is it shmup?
Yeah, shoot 'em up, and then just
Shoot
shmup
'em
it.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah, you shmup it. Okay, so
Shmup
with
it.
with shmups, they definitely, I remember because there was like on Nintendo or SNES, there was like R-Type, there was a ton of them, like Gradient, and they're just like, I felt like they got saturated, and especially when the Japanese shmups started coming out and they were like these bullet hells, and like the bullet hell thing just got saturated, and it was like enough,
Yeah.
and like then they kind of went away, and then the next big thing that was like the trial of your skill was the Super Meat Boy type games, which I don't know what you call those.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation of, like, even though we lump all games into the video game industry, in reality, the indie industry is like a different but the exact same thing. Of they have their trends. Like, with big AAA, we had like horde mode, and then everybody had a horde mode, and we're like, we're sick of it, stop it. And then now some games keep it. Battle Royale is the current big thing, and mobility was a thing. So like with indies, yeah, but I think with indies, rather than it's like mechanics on the AAA level, with indie games, it's just genres. So we just get floods of genres, and then we're like, please stop making this genre. Then it goes away, and then like a game comes out later on that's like, oh well, now that it's fresh again, this feels amazing. Or they do something innovative with it now that everyone's touched it. So
Yeah, I do think that's, but it's like you can't eat pizza every night, right?
yeah.
That's kind of
attitude.
have you ever played two of the same type of game back to back?
It's very difficult. I have.
It's hard, yeah.
It depends. I think for me, it also depends. Like the last time I did that was God of War.
I was gonna say the same game. That's amazing.
I played God of War 1, 2, and 1, and then I played 2, 3, and 4 back to back to back, and that was a great experience. And then I did those with the Uncharted too. I played all of the Uncharteds, but at the same time, I think it was just a product of where I was at the time because I was really into that game. But I also, that's my big thing with open worlds is I can't play 2 open world games back to back. I just cannot do it.
Yeah. Well, it's also like from 2 different franchises. That's usually when it happens. It's the worst. If it's the same franchise, I can understand, like, you're trying to collect data, basically. You're trying to understand where this franchise has evolved and, like, blah, 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 blah. But, like, I remember I played, I think it was God of War 2 or 3 or something. And then I played Dante's Inferno.
Oh.
Which was the same effing game. It was really cool. It was like a great story and like it, but it was the same effing game. And I was like, I can't do this. I don't think I beat it. I don't even think I got that far into it. But it's just, because it's just like eating pizza every night. You just can't do it. You need, and that's what I feel like these types of games are becoming. Is just there's so many of. It's an easy indie game to make. Let's put it that way.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Well, compared to other games, I would say, you just, as maybe not technically, but as a designer, yeah, you just put enemies that shoot bullets in a bunch of different directions, more bullets, more dodging. You maybe put a blink or a dash or a roll or a. what do you want?
I would say, yeah, it does. I think we're getting at is like it does scale well, Like I think once you get that core, it can scale in so many different, not so many different, but I kind of see what you're saying.
Maybe you got 2 dashes in a row. That's a good game, right? 2 dashes in a row.
Yeah. But and then in this article, which the article we're talking about is just what was this from? Oh, the Nintendo Indie World Showcase. That's what we're talking about, which we probably should have mentioned earlier. But
no,
they mentioned okay. They Untitled Goose Game. That's a game that no other game is like. They added a two-player mode, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is funny that you say that. I feel like that's just going to make the game too easy.
I mean, was the game difficult? I
Well,
haven't personally played. I've watched it be played many times, but it
not
didn't
at the
seem like a
beginning.
hard game.
Well, not at the beginning, but there are points in which I think there's a couple of points where the guy like pushes you out or you get caught and you have to do certain things. Actually, the video they show in this, they show one of those points where the I don't know what you would call him, but the old guy kicks you out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm seeing that now.
But I do like any game that you can have two players. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, especially for the Switch, like any game that can encourage just using both controllers for the Switch is just phenomenal. Which is this exclusively coming to the Switch or no?
Well, I mean, the last game was. It says, yeah, it doesn't say. I'm not. I mean, I
Oh,
could watch
I
the video.
didn't know that the Goose Game was an Apple Arcade game. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that.
Huh.
Wait, where does it? No. You're on
Oh
Grind.
no, yeah, no. The game
Yeah,
before it. That makes way more sense.
yeah. Grindstone was an Apple Arcade game, which looks good, and so does the Blueberry Garden story thing.
Yeah.
And these all look really good. I mean, they're really pleasing to the eye, and the bear breakfast, and it's kind of that kind of game, and that you just want to check out really quickly, and
Ge-
see how it is because
Yeah,
it's kind of.
actually, getting on that because we mentioned how like the Switch is a great place for indie games, but I think that based on some of the games that Xbox has been adding to it, I think that Game Pass might kind of be going after Nintendo's indie scene because it's a great place for indie games to go. And I've noticed that recently, and Goose Game is a good example of a game that almost instantly hit Game Pass and just exploded because of it. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of a safe bet because I mean, Microsoft can't have all AAA budget games. They need to have some variety, and being able to give an indie game just a little bit of height. And again, with a lot of indie games, the best thing to do is just to try it and see if you like it, because a lot of the times you just get that little nugget of fun in the first couple minutes of it, and then you're like, oh, this is a fun game. I'll just play it through. So I think
I,
Game Pass could be a huge answer to the indie scene for Microsoft, which
I have a little bit of a confusion point because yes, I agree with what you're saying, but then what's Xbox ID?
I mean that's still I mean yeah that's still a thing, but it's definitely like changed rather than it be. It's kind of weird because that used to be like the only way indie games got onto the Xbox platform, but now it seems like they've rebranded that to be more of like Xbox helping publish indie games and
Well,
like
it used to
promoting
have its
them.
own. It used to have its own engine, which was X and A. So, like the first Xbox ID, you had to develop an X and A, which was just a wrapper around. I don't think it was OpenGL, but it was. Yeah, it might have been DirectX or OpenGL, but it was just a pipeline. Basically, it set up a pipeline for your assets, and also was a wrapper around the graphics system. Nothing else. So it was very similar to what we used. We went to DigiPen, by the way. Yay. But what we used freshman year or
Software.
sophomore year, yeah, the first. Remember, we it was a wrapper around OpenGL. It felt a lot like XNA.
Yeah,
So
I don't think I can't remember when. I want to say they stopped doing that because the last time I looked onto shipping through ID at Xbox, it seemed more of like a rather than a pipeline and more of a traditional go through us. We'll give you the right APIs to tie your game, which can be made in any engine you want, to like just to give you the libraries to attach to like achievements and stuff. I mean, based off how many indie games have come to Xbox now versus when that thing shipped, I think that is why is they stopped that requirement. So it seems like it's much easier to get your games on the Xbox platform, but they also I don't know where this went, but I want to say in like 2017 they announced like the Xbox Creators Program where you could put your games and not go through ID at Xbox, and there was its own storefront, and it was like even easier to get your games on there. But I don't think that lasted very long, and I still don't see that in the store. And all the games on there felt a lot shovelware-y, so
well, I mean, there are some games that are just being ported. I mean, there's Standard Deep already exists. I don't know what Hotline Miami Collection is going to Xbox ID.
yeah.
Um, Streets of Rage 4. So I mean, there's a lot. I mean, so it's definitely not what it used to be. It's like a. But then that's the thing. Like, what is ID and what is XCloud and like why even have ID?
Yeah,
Like,
I think that ID at Xbox is literally just the only way to ship an indie game on there, unless because like the big publishers have their own pipeline to go through, but I think that ID at Xbox is just for the indie developers to have their own pipeline to ship on there. I'm sure that Nintendo Switch that I don't know what they would call it, but I'm sure there's like an indie pipeline that you go through. So I and
yeah,
then
but why not put Hotline Miami collections straight up on XCloud? I mean, that like what I don't get it. I get it if it was just unheard indie games. These are new games that are coming out. You know, that makes sense. The way they used to advertise it makes sense. But it's like for a game like Hotline Miami, which is huge and has been huge in the past, it's like that deserves to be on XCloud. I don't get it. And are these
wait,
games
so
to be on XCloud or like is it?
from my knowledge with xCloud, I don't think the developers need to allow the game to be on. Oh, they maybe might allow it, but I don't think that it's the same way of like they pay people to it like it is just streaming. So I think with Project xCloud you can stream any game on Game Pass. So if it's on Game Pass, it's kind of like you own it, and then you can still stream any game that you own to your platform as well. So the way that xCloud I believe advertised early on was unlike Stadia, where like with Stadia you sign up for the service and then the developer has to put their game on Stadia, where xCloud is just a way to stream any game you already have. So the developer really doesn't have to put their game on xCloud. It just has to run on an Xbox.
Oh, okay. So all these could potentially be on there. So this is still it's still a little confusing. I mean, regardless of how it's going to be represented on the console, it's still just because I think they abandoned what ID Xbox was. Which I don't know if you remember like playing it. It was ridiculous. There were so many like it was just like it was basically people that tinkered in indie games. Like there were shitty games on there. Like really shitty games.
Wait, so when you say ID at Xbox, when are you talking about? Because I thought that ID at Xbox was shipped on the Xbox One.
No, 360.
Oh, are you think because on the 360 they had Xbox Live Arcade and then they had Xbox Live Indie.
No, it was ID. So ID.
Oh, I guess it was probably yeah. Okay, then yeah, that is like a completely different program now. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those games on the 360 that were under the ID brand, those things were just what the fuck.
Well, because they were made by XNA, which was its own. It was basically it was a showcase of its own engine's technology. So like they gave people XNA. You built these games. It was for the community to try game development. This is not what this is anymore, right? So
No.
like,
When the Xbox One shipped, they rebranded it as this is just the division of Xbox that's dedicated to indie development, and that's all it is. They don't have to do. Okay, now I see where you were coming from. And
it's
that makes a lot more
confusing
sense.
though, and like why even have it? Like it just bugs me because like if you're gonna just get rid of like I get why you had it before. It made sense. But why don't you just make this a part of your entire marketplace rather than having it to be this separate thing? Like why can't you put an indie game right on the front page next to Call of Duty? Like what
Well,
what
I
difference
think
does this make? Why would you subdivide?
so. I mean, when you open the store, I want to say they probably there's nothing that says like ID at Xbox on the store. I think you can sort by indie game, but I don't really necessarily. I don't know how they determine what is an indie game or not. But I think that the reason ID at Xbox as a brand still exists is purely to match the other platforms on marketing reasons. Because like I mean, the article we're looking at is the Nintendo Indie World Showcase. So like they have like their own little marketing team that's all about indie games, and that's all that ID Xbox is. And
Well,
PlayStation has their own indie thing that I can't remember the name of, but it's
I'm looking on
literally-
the ID Xbox website right now to find these other games.
Oh, okay.
So like on Xbox.com.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, it's just a program. You submit your game. Yeah, so it is just their indie game
it's like,
pipeline.
but it's not even like Greenlight because these games already exist. Standard Deep already exists. Hotline Miami already. Like if it was Greenlight, I would get it again. I would be like, okay, I understand. Once again, I get why this is a subdivision, but it's not even like that. And maybe it kind of is because some of these games I've never even heard of. You know, like they're. It's just weird. It's gotten weird. I don't see the purpose of it. I think it's lost its heart of what it used to be, and it's confused.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure that to publish any game on an Xbox platform that's not a publisher, you just have to go through ID at Xbox. Like it's really just a pipeline at this point.
It's just a pipeline. Okay.
So
Makes a okay.
Yeah.
But it's that's a little odd still.
But yeah, no, some of those.
If it's just a pipeline, then why do I even need to hear about it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the only reason you hear about it is for marketing reasons. They just want people to remember, hey, we love indie games, just like everyone else does. So it's whatever. I honestly think that it's been dying down in the past 2 years. It used to be they have like some dude from ID at Xbox go on and talk, and now it's like, here's the indie game showcase. It's really just like a montage of indie games. They're like, woohoo, ID at Xbox, and you're just like, why is it called this again? I think everyone's like, why is this a thing?
Well, no, I know, but I feel like people are kind of sad because they had something there to, for the community. I mean, you know what? If either one, Xbox or PlayStation, did modding communities, I think that people would blow up. Like I would go giddy. Like, and this is just something like I feel like they're missing out. Like, and that's kind of what I thought ID Xbox originally was this idea of like, oh, hey, here's some tools, make whatever you want, and we'll post it. We'll put it up on the Xbox. And that's just so cool. Like it's kind of like a little modding community, but I mean, you're not extending games, you're making your own games. And I don't know. I feel like they dropped the effing ball here because this could have been really cool and something that would distinguish them against PlayStation.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like I agree that the vibe and the energy that Xbox Live Arcade and ID Xbox had back in the 360 days definitely was a different feeling, and it felt more passionate. But I think that a big reason why they kind of gave up that whole here's XNA and like go do stuff with it was, I think, just is because of Unity and Unreal. Like they became way more user friendly in this generation than they were back in the day, and they became free, and you can make any game and you really don't have to pay anything as long as you don't make like $100,000 or whatever it is. So like I think they just realized that they could put time and effort and resources into developing like the next XNA or porting it to the new consoles and stuff, or they could just let the people like Unity and Unreal do it.
Yeah, but I mean, but the thing is this still feels like ID Xbox feels like it has a gatekeeper. Fine, allow for both Unreal and Unity, and but don't have a gatekeeper. Just let anybody submit anything, And maybe obviously the only gatekeeping would be for content that is not suited for the platform. Obviously you can't have another Columbine game. Or whatever. My favorite is the one where the Japanese game where you molest people on the subway.
Oh, that's your favorite?
Yeah. That's my favorite example of, we have to actually check out what games are coming onto our platform.
So you're kind of saying that you kind of want Xbox to do what Steam does right now, where they really don't monitor what the hell goes on that platform. I see your point.
I mean, that's what Greenlight is. I mean, it's literally just kind of a thing where, it's like, you guys, we're going to support this community, and we know you're small developers and you're trying to make little games. Go ahead, we'll support you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like getting it through ID at Xbox is terrible, to do, because I mean, if you look at a lot of the games that are on the Xbox store, you really get deep down in there. You can find some shit.
Okay.
No offense to anybody making the games. I'm just saying they're shovelware. So I think it's like $100 to get Xbox developer access or whatever the hell, which is the only way to get on ID at Xbox, and then you can turn your Xbox into a dev kit, which I think that's a small little detail that a lot of people forgot this generation is every stock retail Xbox One is a dev kit if you just turn it on.
Yeah.
So, which is awesome for indie developers. But I get your point.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. They just need to remove these games that are already established, because that kind of confuses the front page. Like if I see Hotline Miami and I'm making my small little game and Hotline Miami's taking the front page, Well, fuck, I don't have a chance.
Okay, now, yeah, I definitely, okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. And I agree, yeah, that 360 did that well. There was a place where you could literally be like, all right, show me the crap. Whether or not it's crap is up to me.
No,
But
it
like,
was
just
all crap.
yeah, like, just show me
I
the small
swear
things.
to
And yeah, I
God,
don't think Xbox has that right now.
some of the games I played on Xbox ID on the 360 and they were fun. Some of them were entertaining, but it really, you know what it felt like? It felt like going through the Dreams collection of games.
Yeah.
You know, like here's this, and that's exactly what I want Xbox ID to be, and I think that they should be supporting it in that, or having it look like that, and not putting Hotline Miami and Standard Deep, which is out. I mean, some of these games have been out for like what, 5 years?
Yeah.
You know, that's not fair.
No, I agree. Yeah, the amount of Minecraft clones that made it onto that ID on the 360
Yeah.
was insane, and I played so many of them.
Yeah, they were just retarded. It was
Yeah,
fun.
although it's still, shout out to anybody who ever played Total Miner on the 360. That game rocked. Like, I don't know what about it. It was so fucking good.
Oh, that's awesome.
But
I never played them. I'll check it
see,
out.
the best part, they were dirt cheap. Like, back when Microsoft points were a thing, it was like 80 Microsoft points to get any one of those games.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it was,
yeah.
And the best part was you had to buy them in bundles. So, like, you'd buy, like, you want Call of Duty Zombies at 1200, you had to buy it in 16. So you're just like, well, I'll buy the zombies, then I'll just get, like, 9 crappy games. And then you just, like, shoot through them in a night. And you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it was fun. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like they're missing out. Like, they had something and they let it go. You know, and it's a little sad, but that's okay. I mean, it's, you know, I think these large companies kind of lose track of the little guys pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think that, so going back to what you're saying of like giving their own little thing, the Xbox Live Creators Program, it seems like what you're talking about, which is it allows you to integrate so this is what they're saying. Whether you're just getting into game development, it's finishing a student, okay, whatever. No concept approval required. So they don't require you to approve the game, which ID does. They have to be like, yes, we will ship your game. But you have to just follow normal store policies. So, you know, if it goes against store policies, which probably covers the Columbine games, it allows anybody to get Xbox Live into there, so signing in with a profile. So it seems like the Xbox Live Creators Program is exactly what ID used to be. The issue is I don't know of many people who are using it, and the store definitely does not make it easy to find these games.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to put larger games and established companies up on the front page, it destroys the marketplace for those people. Because it really should. I mean, you should have a chance, right? I mean, like if you're in college and you're just making this game with a couple of buddies, or even if you're just starting out, it would be nice if you had a chance, right, to get on the front page.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know, and there are a lot. I mean, that's the thing. There are a lot of games that I've never heard of. So maybe you know they do fit that category. But the fact that I even heard of 3 out of the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 games that are on the front page of the ID's games on Xbox.com. Actually, I think I've even heard of this game. I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, so if we look at the pipeline that they're claiming is you get a dev account, which is I'm pretty sure $100. You create a product in Dev Center and integrate it in Xbox Live, whatever the hell that means. You turn dev mode on to test, and then you publish it. So I think that they're okay with this being what that used to be. I wish there was a way. I really would. I mean, the Xbox, we could talk about this a little bit, but the Xbox just had a complete redo of the store because the store on the Xbox One has been bloated and slow and crappy forever. And they finally decided to just completely fix it, and it is phenomenal how much better that they made it. So I'm hoping that now that you guys have fixed the store, just give me a tab on the front page that says, like, AAA indie creators, and let me just click on that creators button and just see the flood of crap that I get to just experience, because that would be amazing.
Well, and also, like, you know, I mean, and just represent, I mean, it's going to be a little bit different because everyone's going to have gold automatically just to even use the console. But yeah, I mean, it should be represented. I mean, they should be supporting these games. They should just show that they're supporting the community. And I think that goes a long way, like in the long run too. I mean, it's just like, especially if you're, you know, starting out in development and you feel supported by this huge company, it just you go to support, just it's the whole thing with Nintendo, and this is one of the Nintendo's biggest flaws, is not supporting the YouTube community and the streaming community, and not allowing their games to be streamed for a long time. I mean, like they're I think they do more now. Certain games, only still kind of bitches about streaming.
Yeah.
But there was a point in time where you could not stream any game that was Nintendo.
Oh yeah, I remember a lot of like the big YouTubers I would watch at the time. They just didn't ever play Nintendo games, especially like Nintendo Mario Party and Kart.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, we can't do it. We're not going to get paid for this at all, or it's going to get taken down.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of them got taken down. A lot of them got letters and shit, and it wasn't. And everyone was like, "This is the stupidest thing ever." It literally
never made sense.
Castrating your community and like the people that are advertising your game.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. It still won't ever make sense, and I'm glad they went back on it.
Yeah, they definitely turned around. I mean, it's a lot different now than it used to be, but I remember that, and I was just like, it feels the same way. It's just like the more you support your community, the better your console will go. It's a long-term gain. It's not a quick gain, but it's a long-term gain.
Yeah. And going before we get off the topic of ID, the creator, it's very interesting. The creators program. So, they don't, as long as your game follows the standard store policies, you do not need any additional approval to ship, which is pretty great. Yeah. And then the only Xbox Live features you get are the game appears on Xbox Live. There's leaderboards, cloud saves, game hubs, clubs, party chat, game DVR. So the only things that you would need to go through ID at Xbox for would be if you want achievements in your game or online multiplayer, which that makes a lot of sense because with achievements, I mean, that's integrating into an entire ecosystem that Xbox has designed themselves, so I understand why they would want a little more hands-on with that. And then online multiplayer, very much so I could see why they would want people to have... Oh, yeah. Like, I understand completely. So I honestly think that the fact that we had to go kind of deep diving in here to find this, I do want them to give this a lot more love and put this out there. I think it would help a lot. And, man, when you start looking at the games, I am getting 360 vibes.
No, I'm looking. I'm finally now on the creators program page, and I moved it to show 50 games per page, and it's ridiculous. Yeah, this is how it was. I mean, this is how I remember it.
Yeah,
which is great. Right here. Yeah, because it's just like, oh well, and you know what? If you're just a kid, you're like, hey, I can make a game. These games aren't so hard.
Yeah,
they're not that great.
Especially with like Unity. I think they just announced that they're bringing in a scripting language like Blueprints.
Oh, are
visual
they?
Scripting, yeah. Which I mean. Honestly, it was a matter of time. That's the biggest thing that Unreal can do better than Unity. Well, many things, but Unity is great. But if you have that, Unity is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Well, I mean, Unity is the comparison to the two that I always hear is from nothing to vertical slice, or not vertical slice, or just concept is better on Unity, but then the from there on, it would have been better on Unreal.
Huh. That's it.
So like it's just easier to prototype. Like you can get something up and running a lot faster on Unity. And this is just what I hear from designers and different things, that they say that they just prefer Unity. I guess it's the way that it works. You just attach scripts. It's like very easy to get stuff up and running, and you don't have to like. The depth of learning isn't as hard.
Yeah, I think the thing that hurts Unreal in terms of just getting started right away is just how big the engine feels. But like, I mean, it's kind of crazy how fast you could prototype in Unreal if you just like find the right template project. And like I love the Blueprint system. I think that it's easier to prototype in the Blueprints because you just drag things around. But I also just love how empty Unity can be at the beginning. So I see both sides. And then there's always GameMaker, which I haven't used.
You also edged more on the computer science side than the game designer. Yeah. So, I mean, like, from a game designer's perspective, I get it.
Yeah.
Because if it's too challenging or it takes too long to know all the facets that you could use, I mean, you just want to be able to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Unreal is intimidating, I think is a good way of putting it. Unreal's super intimidating. Unity is not intimidating at the slightest.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear that if they get Blueprints, they'll be more of a contender.
Yeah, I don't think that Unity will ever... Well, I'll say this is a challenge to the Unity team. I don't know if you guys are ever going to be as great on the rendering side as Unreal, but You guys are great for so many of the things.
I don't know. I see very high similarities. When it's not like they're trailing by that much.
No, it's not. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a significant loss. I think that it goes back to the up and running aspect. I think it takes a little bit more out of
Oh,
you
okay.
to get Unity to look as good as it would at like default type of Unreal stuff. But I mean, I think that just goes back to what Unreal and Unity were built
Yeah.
from the get go. Unity wasn't ever. I don't think Unity was conceptualized as let's get the next big powerhouse. Where Unreal has always been let's push the industry forward with rendering. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even the default scenes are a lot different. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess I see your point.
yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't really used either. that. So, but yeah. So is there? Let's see. Where are we jumping from here?
I mean, we only got a couple minutes left, so nothing too crazy. But
Well, you wanted to talk about Battletoads.
yeah, let's talk about Battletoads. The very actually, no. Let's talk about another game that came out this week, which was very interesting, and I want your opinion on of like if other games should do this in the future. Is new Super Lucky's Tale came out to all of the platforms, which at first I thought was an update to Super Lucky's Tale, which came out in 2017. But
Yeah.
apparently it is a brand new game. Well, it is. I bought it. It's a completely new game, but it's the same game. So like you have to still rebuy it, but they completely redid like cutscenes and they added a
Oh,
couple
cool.
levels. They the original game, and I think this was like my problem with the original is I love Super Lucky's Tale and it was really fun, but there were just a lot of small things that just kind of it prevented me from loving the game and playing it all the way through, which was the movement felt a little sluggish at times and the camera was not fully 3D, it was fixed. So it was like you had like three different viewpoints of each level that you could toggle between, which was very weird, but it kind of worked. But they decided to just completely redo all of the movement and make it a lot tighter and a lot like it felt just fun to use, like Super
Okay.
Mario Odyssey.
Oh,
And
nice.
then the fully 3D camera. So they kind of just took the game that they've already made and completely redid it with like everything that could have been fixed, and then reshipped it as a game at like $40. And I don't know how well it's like shipping, but it's kind of weird. I don't know if I've seen a game really. I mean, it's kind of like a remaster, which we've talked about before, like Resident Evil 2, but I don't know. It was really weird.
I mean, I kind of see what they're doing because, as you said, you are somebody who's played the Super Lucky's Tale, and you're a fan, and so you're really excited to see these changes. So you're automatically going to buy in.
Yeah.
But for those people that haven't played it, it's like they are bringing more people into the franchise, and I think it's locking those people down for a new title. Like if they did a second game or a third game, it's almost like they're bringing more people into the fold, while satiating the people that are waiting for the next game.
Yeah, and I'm curious because I don't know if it's made by Playful. I don't know their publishing situation by hand, but I know that Super Lucky's Tale did not really hit well. Like I don't know a lot of people who actually bought it and like really really got into it. So
Yeah, I have never
I'm
played
wondering if like there was a decision made, which I hope pays off because I think that new Super Lucky's Tale is absolutely phenomenal of a game, and it's going back to the beginning where we were talking about genres that got oversaturated and then came back later. The 3D platformers just were awfully oversaturated in the 6th gen, and now
Yeah.
we barely have any, and it's really great to have one that's fantastic. But I feel like the game made just enough to where they couldn't really go make a new game, but they could just be like, okay, let's just fix everything that was wrong with this game and reship it, and maybe that will sell better. So, which is an interesting. I don't know. I've never seen a game kind of do this before, so I'm wondering if that type of approach is going to help them. I want them to keep making games. I like the developer.
What are so they're obviously releasing on Xbox One, and then what else? Like Switch and PC and.
So I think that because I know that it was exclusive to the Xbox launch in 2017, and then it got shipped. New Super Lucky's Tale came out on the Switch like a year ago. So I think, well, I guess that's an interesting part of the story, which is they kind of released this brand new version of it exclusively on the Switch, which was a great audience for it, and then they're kind of now just porting it back to every other platform. So. It's an
the
interesting like history of development.
The thought process here is not necessarily the community itself; it's the stores and how they represent this type of title. Because is this type of title, which is basically a remastered, is it going to be able to stay on the front page of a store for very long?
Yeah, well, another thing that it went to Game Pass right away, which Super Lucky
that's
Tale
good.
was already on Game Pass, which is weird. Super Lucky's Tale is still on Game Pass. The new Super Lucky's Tale is also on Game Pass. So the same game is on there twice technically, but one of them is significantly inferior.
Yeah,
So that's interesting.
That is interesting, yeah, that they do that.
It's weird that they allowed that, because I know that whoever's publishing that obviously has control to do what Rockstar does, which is they took one game off and put Red Dead 2 on there. So I'm surprised that when they shipped that, they didn't just say, hey, can you take Super Lucky off because we want only people to play this game, which I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in a week they do that. But
yeah, but it's not just like a graphics enhancement. I mean, you're literally changing the way that you are maneuvering the main character, which is,
yeah,
I mean, that's a big change. I
mean, yeah, they added things like, I mean, yeah, the whole camera system is different. The base movement is different. They added a slide mechanic, which didn't exist before, which I love. It's momentum based, which is nice. You can slide down ramps. And then they also added a clothes system, exactly from Super Mario Odyssey. Like, you can buy clothes with all these coins and put different costumes on Lucky. So, yeah, I honestly am like, guys, you should take the other one off and just never talk about it, because this game is just so much better.
It's interesting because there was I'm gonna try to figure out what this game was, but there was a game by Pixel Junk on the PS3, and I remember that I think it was something First Lap and then Final Lap. Let me see, First Lap. Okay, yes. So Racers. Okay, yeah. So it's Pixel Junk Racers, right? And then there was Pixel Junk Racers was the original game. And it was just brutal. Like, it was, the gameplay was just, I actually really enjoyed that game because I felt like if you had beaten that game, you were a really good gamer. Like, you were top of the line. Because they would do these, you would have to get all golds in like all these races. And there were certain ones where there would be 3 challenges in a row. And if you failed one of them, that's what you got for the entire thing.
Oh, so if you showed me this game one of the first times I hung out with you. I remember this game.
It's so hard. And so they came out with Pixel Junk Racers Second Lap, which all it is the same game, but they made it easier. And it pissed me off because they took away the original one, and I could never get back to it. And it just, I was really upset because I got the opportunity to beat it, and like I didn't have it because whatever reason it wasn't on my console anymore. And I felt shortchanged. And so like there is an element to not just replace it. I mean, yeah, I get it that you want the new, better game, but there are people that like that other, they like That's the other version, and it's a hard call. And I think if there's enough change, you kind of have to keep it around for a little bit, just to allow people, or like, maybe put like a clock on it and say that this is not going to exist for. I mean, I know that's what PlayStation Now does. Is like if a game's no longer going to be on PlayStation Now, they'll give you a clock, like this is going to be pushed in 5 days.
I think that, maybe not ignore it, but I think it is weird that they keep it on Game Pass, specifically because when I saw the game was released and I saw it on Game Pass and I'm like, I have Game Pass, I was confused on whether or not I needed to download the new one or the old one, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. It does.
I really hope that there's no one out there who has Game Pass and was like, ooh, this game looks cool, and they downloaded the old one and are like, oh, I don't really like it that much because one of the things that has been fixed in the new one is fixed in the new one, and they don't ever realize it.
I'm sure it's going to be like a transition period where over time they're going to get rid of it. They're just letting those people that still want to beat it in that form or whatever, so they don't get too many complaints. Yeah. They'll be like, hey, we left it on for a month, 2 months, you didn't beat it, so sorry.
Fair enough. All right, well, that's a good place to end.
Yeah, it was good conversation. Thank you for all. Do we have any viewers?
Maybe one.
We have one.
I think we had one. Well, sorry for the weird time. We're usually live Mondays at 6 p.m. on YouTube, and then we publish to all major podcasts at like 8 o'clock on a Monday. So,
yeah, we'll get back to schedules. But thank you for joining us, and see you next time.
All right, there we go.